The accident happened on a Thursday night in October. I wasn't there when it happened. Nobody called me right away. I found out 3 hours later, when a police officer knocked on my apartment door at 2 in the morning. I'd been asleep. Not deeply, I never slept deeply anymore, not since I'd started working double shifts at the construction site, but enough that the knocking startled me. At first, I thought it was part of a dream. But then it came again, harder this time, more insistent. I got out of bed and walked to the door in my boxers and an old t-shirt. Through the peephole, I could see a figure in uniform. My first thought was that I'd done something wrong. Parked illegally. Missed a court date I'd forgotten about. Something stupid and mundane. I opened the door. "Are you Daniel Riverside?" The officer was young. Maybe 25. He had the kind of face that looked like it hadn't seen enough yet to be doing this job. "Yes. I'm Officer Chen. There's been an incident involving your sister." The word incident is what they use when they don't want to say something worse. When they're preparing you for information that's going to break you but they haven't figured out how to deliver it yet. What happened? There was a car accident. Your sister's vehicle was struck by another driver. She's at Memorial Hospital. My mind went blank for a second. Not the way people describe it in movies, where everything stops and the world goes silent. It was more like static. Like I could hear him talking but the words weren't connecting to anything. "Is she okay?" Officer Chen's expression shifted. Just slightly. A tightness around his eyes. "You should get to the hospital," he said. That's when I knew. I drove to Memorial in my truck, still wearing the shirt I'd slept in. The streets were empty. It was October, so the air had that cold bite to it, but I didn't feel it. I didn't feel anything except a kind of mechanical need to get there. To see her. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty. I parked in the first spot I saw and ran inside. The woman at the front desk directed me to the ICU on the 4th floor. I took the stairs because I couldn't wait for the elevator. My legs felt weak by the time I reached the top, but I kept moving. A nurse met me outside the ICU. "Daniel Riverside?" "Yes." "Where's Sarah?" "She's in surgery right now. The doctor will come talk to you as soon as they're done." "What happened to her?" The nurse hesitated. "She has severe internal injuries. The impact caused significant trauma. They're doing everything they can." I wanted to ask more questions, but I didn't know what to ask. So I just stood there. "You can wait in the family room," the nurse said, gesturing down the hall. "I'll let you know the moment there's any update." I walked to the family room and sat down in one of those uncomfortable plastic chairs that every hospital seems to have. The room smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. There was a TV mounted on the wall, playing some late-night infomercial with the sound off. I sat there for 2 hours. At 4:30 a.m., a doctor came in. He was older, maybe in his 50s, with gray hair and tired eyes. "Mr. Riverside?" I stood up. "I'm Dr. Patel. I've been overseeing your sister's care. How is she?" He sat down and gestured for me to do the same. That's when I knew it was bad. "Your sister sustained massive internal injuries in the collision," he said. "We did everything we could to stabilize her, but the damage was too extensive. Her liver was lacerated, and she had severe bleeding in her abdominal cavity. We've managed to control some of the bleeding, but her condition is critical." "Can I see her?" "She's unconscious. She hasn't woken up since the accident." "But yes, you can see her." He led me down a hallway to one of the ICU rooms. Sarah was lying in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines. There were tubes everywhere, in her mouth, in her arms, connected to monitors that beeped in a rhythm I didn't understand. She looked small. That's what struck me most. Sarah was 5'6", not particularly tall but not small either. But lying there, she looked tiny. Fragile. I sat down in the chair next to her bed and took her hand. It was cold. "Sarah," I said quietly. "It's me. It's Daniel." She didn't respond. The machines kept beeping. I sat there holding her hand, watching her chest rise and fall with the ventilator. And at 4:47 a.m., the machine started making a different sound. A long, steady tone. Nurses rushed in. Dr. Patel came back. They moved quickly, efficiently, doing compressions, adjusting equipment. But I already knew. After 5 minutes, Dr. Patel stepped back. "I'm sorry," he said. Sarah was gone. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, still holding her hand, staring at her face. She looked peaceful. That's what people always say, right? That the dead look peaceful. But Sarah didn't look peaceful to me. She just looked gone. One of the nurses gently touched my shoulder. "Take as much time as you need," she said. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. Eventually, I let go of her hand and walked out. The next few days were a blur. There were forms to sign. Arrangements to make. People to call. Sarah and I didn't have much family. Our parents died in a house fire when I was 17. Sarah was 14. We'd been raising each other ever since. Our mom's sister, Aunt Linda, lived in Florida. I called her and told her what happened. She cried on the phone and said she'd try to come up for the funeral, but she had health issues and wasn't sure she could make the trip. She didn't make it. Sarah's friends came to the funeral. People from the hospital where she worked as a nurse. Neighbors. A few people I didn't recognize. Everyone said the same things. She was so kind. She had such a bright future. This is such a tragedy. I nodded and thanked them and didn't feel anything. The funeral was on a Tuesday. Gray sky. Cold wind. The kind of day that felt appropriate. They lowered Sarah's casket into the ground, and I stood there watching, thinking about the last conversation we'd had. She'd called me that Thursday afternoon, around 3. I was on a site in Riverside, dealing with a delayed permit. I was stressed, distracted. "Hey," she said. "You busy?" "Sort of." "What's up?" "Nothing important. I just wanted to see if you were free for dinner this weekend." "Yeah, probably. I'll text you." "Okay. Love you." "Love you too." That was it. The last thing I ever said to my sister was, "I'll text you." And I never did. Before I continue, take a second to like and subscribe. These stories reach far. A week after the funeral, I went to the police station. I needed to know what happened. I needed details. Officer Chen met with me in a small room with fluorescent lights and a table that looked like it had been through a few decades of interrogations. "Mr. Riverside," he said, sitting down across from me. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you. I need to know what happened that night." He opened a folder and pulled out a report. "Your sister was driving southbound on Maple Street at approximately 10:15 p.m. Another vehicle, a black SUV, ran a red light at the intersection of Maple and 14th Street. The SUV struck your sister's vehicle on the driver's side at an estimated speed of 45 miles per hour. I felt something tighten in my chest. Who was driving the SUV? A woman named Jennifer Castellano. She was arrested at the scene. Was she drunk? Officer Chen hesitated. The toxicology report is still pending. But you tested her. Yes. And? Her blood alcohol level was 0.12. Legally intoxicated. I stared at him. She was drunk. Yes. And she killed my sister. Yes. I sat there for a moment, trying to process it. What happens now? Ms. Castellano has been charged with vehicular manslaughter. The case will go to trial. You'll be notified of all court dates, and you have the right to attend. What kind of sentence is she looking at? That depends on a lot of factors. Her prior record, the specifics of the case, how the trial goes. But for vehicular manslaughter with a DUI, probably 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. For killing someone. For taking Sarah away from me. That's it. Officer Chen looked uncomfortable. I know it doesn't seem like enough. But that's what the law allows. I stood up. Thank you for your time, I said. I walked out of the station and sat in my truck for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel. 3 to 5 years. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. The preliminary hearing was in November. I attended. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. There were maybe 20 people there, mostly lawyers, court staff, a few family members. Jennifer Castellano sat at the defense table with her lawyer. She was wearing a gray suit. Her hair was pulled back. She looked professional. Composed. Like she was attending a business meeting, not a hearing for killing someone. I sat in the back row and watched. Her lawyer argued for bail reduction. Said Jennifer was a low flight risk. That she had strong ties to the community. That she was cooperative with the investigation. The prosecutor pushed back. Said the severity of the crime warranted keeping bail where it was. The judge agreed with the prosecutor. Jennifer's bail stayed at $100,000. As the hearing ended, I watched Jennifer stand up. Her family was there, mother, father, 2 younger siblings. They surrounded her immediately. Her mother hugged her. Her father put his hand on her shoulder. They were comforting her. As if she was the victim. I felt something hot and bitter rise in my throat. Sarah had no one to comfort her. Because Sarah was dead. I tried to go back to normal life. I went back to work. Showed up at job sites. Managed crews. Signed off on inspections. But I wasn't really there. I'd be in the middle of a conversation with a subcontractor and suddenly forget what we were talking about. I'd stare at blueprints and not see them. I'd drive home and not remember the route I took. At night, I'd lie in bed and think about Sarah. About all the things she'd never get to do. She'd wanted to go back to school. Get her nurse practitioner license. Maybe move somewhere warmer, she always hated the cold. She'd been saving money for a trip to Italy. She'd never been out of the country. She'd wanted kids someday. She used to talk about it. About what kind of mother she'd be. All of that was gone now. Because Jennifer Castellano got drunk and ran a red light. I started following Jennifer online. It wasn't intentional. I was just looking. Her Facebook profile was public. So was her Instagram. She deleted most of her posts after the accident, but some things were still there. Photos from before. Group shots. Parties. Vacations. She looked happy in all of them. I scrolled through months of photos. Years. Jennifer at a wedding. Jennifer at a barbecue. Jennifer with friends at some rooftop bar, holding up a cocktail and smiling at the camera. In one photo, she was wearing a shirt that said, "Rose all day." I stared at that photo for a long time. And then I kept scrolling. I found a photo from 2 weeks before the accident. Jennifer was at a bar called The Lantern. She was with a group of friends, 4 or 5 people, all crowded around a high-top table. The caption read, "Thursday night's done right, tropical drink." In the photo, Jennifer was holding up a shot glass, her head tilted back, mid-laugh. I checked the location tag. The Lantern was on 14th Street. 3 blocks from the intersection where she hit Sarah. I went to the Lantern on a Saturday night in December. I don't know what I was looking for. I just needed to see it. The place was crowded. Music too loud. People pressed against the bar, shouting drink orders over the noise. I sat at a table in the corner and ordered a beer I didn't drink. I watched the people around me. Groups of friends laughing. Couples leaning close. Someone playing darts in the back. Everyone looked so carefree. Like the world was a safe place. I stayed for 2 hours and then left. But I came back the next weekend. And the weekend after that. I started recognizing faces. The bartenders. The regulars. The guy who always sat at the end of the bar and watched sports on the TV mounted above the liquor shelf. And then, one night in late December, I saw her. Jennifer. She walked in with 2 friends, a blonde woman and a guy in a flannel shirt. I almost didn't recognize her. Her hair was shorter than it had been in the photos. She looked thinner. Tired. But it was her. She sat at the bar and ordered a soda. I watched her for the next hour. She didn't drink. She barely talked to her friends. She kept checking her phone, like she was waiting for a message that never came. At around 11, she stood up, said something to her friends, and left. I waited 30 seconds and then followed her. I didn't get close. I just wanted to see where she went. She walked 3 blocks east to a parking garage, got into a small sedan, a Honda, I think, and drove away. I wrote down her license plate number. The next day, I looked it up online. Her address was listed as 2847, Clearwater Avenue. An apartment building on the north side of town. I drove past it that afternoon. It was a 3-story building. Older. Red brick. Nothing special. Jennifer's apartment was on the 3rd floor. Unit 3C. I could see her window from the street. The lights were on. I sat in my truck across the street and stared up at that window. And I thought about Sarah. About the fact that she'd never have another apartment. Another window. Another light to turn on at the end of a long day. Jennifer got to have all of that. And it didn't seem fair. I started driving past Jennifer's apartment every few days. Not every day, I didn't want to establish a pattern. But regularly enough that I started to learn her schedule. She left for work at 7:30 a.m. most mornings. She'd come home around 5 p.m. Some nights, she'd go out with friends. Other nights, she'd stay in. I told myself I was just keeping tabs on her. Making sure she wasn't getting away with something. But the truth is, I didn't know what I was doing. I just couldn't stop. The trial was set for March. 4 months away. The prosecutor, a woman named Angela Reyes, called me in for a meeting in January. She wanted to go over my victim impact statement. "This is your opportunity to tell the court how Sarah's death has affected you," she said. "It won't change the verdict, but it can influence sentencing. What do you want me to say?" "Whatever feels true to you. Talk about who Sarah was. What she meant to you. What you've lost." I nodded. I spent the next 2 weeks writing and rewriting that statement. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted it to convey everything, the pain, the anger, the emptiness. But words felt inadequate. How do you explain what it's like to lose the only family you have left? How do you make someone understand the weight of that? In the end, I kept it simple. Sarah was my sister. She was kind, compassionate, and hardworking. She dedicated her life to helping others as a nurse. She was 26 years old when she was killed by a drunk driver. I will never get to see her grow old, get married, or have children. I will never get to hear her laugh again. And the person responsible for that will serve a few years in prison and then get to live the rest of her life. That is not justice. I read it out loud to myself once and then put it away. I kept going to the lantern. I told myself it was research. That I was gathering information. But really, I just needed to feel close to what had happened. One night in February, I overheard a conversation at the bar. 2 women were talking. One of them mentioned Jennifer by name. "I feel so bad for her," the woman said. "Like, obviously what happened was terrible, but she's been going through hell. She lost her job. Her family's barely talking to her. And she's in therapy, like, 3 times a week." "I know," the other woman said. "But I mean, she did kill someone." "I know. I'm not saying she shouldn't face consequences. I'm just saying it's complicated, you know." I wanted to stand up and tell them it wasn't complicated. That Sarah was dead and Jennifer was alive and there was nothing complicated about that. But I didn't. I just finished my beer and left. The trial started on March 14th. I attended every single day. The prosecution laid out the case methodically. They presented the toxicology report. The traffic camera footage. Witness testimony from people who'd seen the accident. One witness, a man named Tom Garrity, had been driving behind Sarah that night. He described seeing the SUV run the red light. "It didn't even slow down," he said. "It just plowed right through the intersection." Jennifer's lawyer cross-examined him. "Is it possible you didn't see the light change?" he asked. "No," Tom said. "I saw it. It was red. But you were behind the victim's vehicle. Your view of the light may have been obstructed." "It wasn't obstructed. But it's possible." Tom hesitated. I guess anything's possible. The lawyer smiled slightly and sat down. That's how the whole trial went. The prosecution would present facts. Jennifer's lawyer would introduce doubt. Not enough to overturn the evidence. Just enough to muddy the waters. On the fourth day of the trial, Jennifer took the stand. She was wearing a navy dress. Her hair was pulled back in a bun. She looked small and nervous. Her lawyer asked her to describe the night of the accident. "I'd been out with friends," Jennifer said, her voice quiet. "We went to dinner and then stopped at the Lantern for a drink." "How much did you drink?" "2 glasses of wine at dinner. And then? I think I had 2 more drinks at the bar." "Did you feel intoxicated?" "No. I mean, I felt a little buzzed, but I didn't think I was over the limit." "Why did you decide to drive?" "I thought I was okay. I'd had food. I'd been drinking water. I thought I was fine." Her voice cracked on the word fine. "And then what happened?" her lawyer asked gently. "I was driving home. I remember turning onto Maple Street. And then? I don't remember. I don't remember running the light. I don't remember the impact. The next thing I remember is being in an ambulance." She started crying. The lawyer handed her a tissue. "Jennifer, do you regret what happened?" "Every day," she said, her voice breaking. "I think about Sarah Riverside every single day. I know I can never undo what I did. I know I took someone's sister, someone's friend. And I have to live with that forever." She looked directly at me when she said that. And I felt something hard and cold settle in my chest. Because I didn't believe her. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They came back with a verdict on a Friday afternoon. Guilty on all counts. Vehicular manslaughter. Driving under the influence causing death. Jennifer's mother sobbed. Her father put his arm around her. I sat in the back row and felt nothing. Sentencing didn't happen for another 2 weeks. When it did, I was allowed to read my victim impact statement. I stood at the podium and looked at Jennifer. She was crying before I even started speaking. I read my statement slowly. Clearly. When I finished, the judge thanked me and asked Jennifer if she wanted to make a statement. She stood up, hands clasped in front of her. "I am so sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "I know that doesn't change anything. I know Sarah is gone and it's my fault. But I want her brother to know that I think about her every day. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to be better. Trying to honor her memory by becoming someone who deserves a second chance." The judge nodded. And then he delivered the sentence. 2 years. With the possibility of parole after 18 months. The court recognizes the defendant's remorse and her efforts toward rehabilitation, the judge said. While this was a tragic incident, the court believes there is potential for redemption. 2 years. For killing my sister. I walked out of the courtroom in silence. I tried to move on after that. I really did. I threw myself into work. I took on bigger projects. Longer hours. But at night, I'd lie awake and think about Jennifer. About the fact that she was sitting in some minimum security facility, probably reading books, taking classes, eating 3 meals a day. While Sarah was in the ground. It ate at me. By summer, I couldn't think about anything else. I started researching Jennifer's background. I went through old social media posts. Searched for articles. Found interviews she'd done for her college newspaper years ago. And the more I learned, the angrier I became. Because Jennifer Castellano wasn't some tragic figure who made one terrible mistake. She'd been careless her whole life. I found posts from years ago where she joked about driving after drinking. About making it home safe after nights out. About how she probably shouldn't have driven but lol whatever. There were photos of her holding drinks with captions like, "feeling fancy," and, "living my best life." She'd been doing this for years. Driving drunk. Getting away with it. Until Sarah. Jennifer was released in November. 16 months into her sentence. I got an automated email from the victim notification system. The offender in your case has been released on parole. For more information, please contact your victim advocate. That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she'd taken. Just a form letter. I read that email 10 times. And then I made a decision. I started following Jennifer again. She'd moved back in with her parents. A house on the north side of town. Quiet neighborhood. Tree-lined streets. I drove past a few times, just to see it. It was a nice house. 2 stories. Big front yard. There were wind chimes hanging from the porch. Jennifer got a job at a coffee shop called Morning Brew. She worked the early shift, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. I started going there. Not every day. Just occasionally. I'd order a coffee and sit in the corner and watch her work. She was good at it. Friendly with customers. Efficient. Like nothing had ever happened. Like she hadn't killed someone. I wasn't planning to do anything. I just needed to see her. To remind myself that she was still out there, living her life, while Sarah's was over. But one morning in December, something changed. I was sitting in the coffee shop, watching Jennifer make drinks behind the counter, when a woman walked in with a little girl. The girl was maybe 4 or 5 years old. She had pigtails and was wearing a bright pink jacket. Jennifer smiled at her. "Hi there," she said. "What can I get for you?" The little girl looked up at her mom, shy. "She'll have a hot chocolate," the mom said. Jennifer made the drink and handed it to the little girl with a big smile. "Careful, it's hot," she said. The little girl smiled back and said thank you. And I felt something break inside me. Because Sarah would never have that. She'd never have a daughter. She'd never get to make her hot chocolate on a cold morning. Jennifer got to have moments like that. And Sarah didn't. That night, I sat in my truck outside Jennifer's parents' house. I didn't have a plan. I just sat there, staring at the lit windows. Around midnight, the lights went off. I stayed for another hour. And then I went home. I started sending her messages. Anonymous emails. Untraceable. Nothing threatening. Just reminders. Sarah Riverside would have been 28 today. It's been 512 days since you killed someone. Do you still think about her? Or have you moved on? I sent one every few days. I wanted her to know that someone was watching. That she hadn't been forgiven. At first, I thought it was working. Jennifer started looking over her shoulder more. Checking her phone constantly. She stopped smiling as much at work. And I felt a grim satisfaction. But then she went to the police. 2 officers showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday morning. "Daniel Riverside?" "Yes. We need to ask you some questions about Jennifer Castellano." My stomach dropped. "What about her?" "She's filed a harassment complaint. Says she's been receiving threatening messages. The messages reference the accident. They're clearly directed at her. And given your history, she believes they're coming from you. I haven't contacted her." One of the officers, a woman with short gray hair, looked at me for a long moment. "Mr. Riverside, we understand this has been difficult for you. Losing your sister was a tragedy. But if you're reaching out to Ms. Castellano in any way, through email, social media, phone calls, anything, you need to stop. If this continues, she can file for a restraining order. And if you violate that, you'll be arrested." I nodded. Understood. They left. I sat on my couch for an hour, staring at the wall. And then I stopped sending the emails. But I didn't stop watching. I told myself I just needed to see her one more time. To make sure she understood what she'd taken. So one night in January, I went to her parents' house. It was late. After midnight. The street was empty except for a few parked cars. I parked a block away and walked up to the house. All the lights were off except one, upstairs, second window from the left. I stood on the sidewalk and stared up at that window. And I thought about what I'd say if I knocked on the door. If Jennifer answered. If I looked her in the eye and told her exactly what she'd taken from me. But I didn't knock. I just stood there in the cold, watching. And then I heard a voice behind me. "Can I help you?" I turned. A man was standing on the porch of the house next door. Middle-aged. Arms crossed. "I'm just leaving," I said. "You've been standing there for 10 minutes. I've been watching you." I said I'm leaving. I walked back to my truck and drove away. My hands were shaking the whole way home. The restraining order arrived 3 days later. It was delivered by a process server who knocked on my door at 8 a.m. I signed for it and read it in my living room. Jennifer Castellano has filed for a restraining order against Daniel Riverside. Mr. Riverside is hereby ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from Ms. Castellano at all times. He is prohibited from contacting her directly or indirectly through any means, including phone, email, social media, or third parties. Violation of this order may result in arrest and criminal charges. I read it 3 times. And then I set it on my kitchen table and stared at it. I'd become the villain. Not in my own mind, but in everyone else's. The grieving brother who couldn't let go. The dangerous one. The one who needed to be restrained. Jennifer had killed my sister. And somehow, I was the one being punished for it. I stopped following her after that. I deleted the burner email accounts. I threw away the notes I'd kept about her schedule. I avoided Morning Brew and the Lantern and anywhere else I might run into her. I tried to focus on work. But the anger didn't go away. It just turned inward. I started drinking more. Not a lot, just a beer or 2 at night. But it became a habit. A way to quiet the thoughts. I stopped seeing friends. Stopped returning phone calls. By March, I'd lost 2 clients because I couldn't focus on job sites. I'd show up late or forget meetings or snap at subcontractors for no reason. One of my foremen, a guy named Ray who'd been with me for 5 years, pulled me aside. "You okay, boss?" "I'm fine." "You don't seem fine." I said I'm fine. Ray nodded slowly. "All right. But if you need to talk or take some time off, just let me know." I didn't take time off. I just kept working. Kept pushing through. But I wasn't really there. And then, one night in early April, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "Hello? Is this Daniel Riverside?" "Yes. This is Detective Sarah Park with the Metro Police Department. I'm calling about Jennifer Castellano." My heart stopped. "What about her?" "There's been an incident. I need you to come down to the station as soon as possible." "What kind of incident?" "I'd prefer to discuss this in person." "Can you come down tonight?" I looked at the clock. It was 10:30 p.m. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. I drove to the police station in a fog. My mind was racing. Had Jennifer accused me of something else? Had she claimed I'd violated the restraining order? Or had something happened to her? I didn't know which scenario scared me more. When I arrived, Detective Park met me in the lobby. She was in her 40s, with short black hair and sharp eyes. "Mr. Riverside, thank you for coming. Follow me." She led me down a hallway to a small interrogation room. There was a table, 2 chairs, and a mirror that was obviously one-way glass. "Have a seat," she said. I sat down. Detective Park sat across from me and opened a folder. "Mr. Riverside, I need to inform you that Jennifer Castellano was involved in a serious incident last night." "What kind of incident?" "She was struck by a vehicle. Hit and run. She's currently in critical condition at Memorial Hospital." The room felt like it tilted. "What?" "She was walking home from work around 2:30 p.m. yesterday. A vehicle struck her on Clearwater Avenue and fled the scene. We have witnesses but no clear identification of the vehicle yet." I stared at her. "You're telling me this because you think I had something to do with it?" Detective Park's expression didn't change. "Did you?" "No." "Where were you yesterday between 2 o'clock and 3 p.m.? "I was at a job site in Riverside. I can give you the address. I was there all afternoon." "Can anyone verify that?" "My foreman. Ray Mitchell. And probably half a dozen other workers." She wrote something down. "Mr. Riverside, I'm sure you understand why you're a person of interest in this case. You have a documented history with Ms. Castellano. A restraining order. Previous harassment. I didn't do this. Then you won't mind if we examine your vehicle. They impounded my truck that night. Searched it. Photographed it. Swabbed for evidence. I waited at the station for 3 hours while they processed everything. Detective Park finally came back and told me I was free to go. We didn't find anything that links you to the incident, she said. But don't leave town. We may have more questions. Am I a suspect? You're a person of interest. There's a difference. I nodded and left. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about what Detective Park had said. Jennifer was in critical condition. Someone had hit her. Just like she'd hit Sarah. And part of me, an ugly, bitter part that I didn't want to acknowledge, felt like it was justice. Like the universe had finally balanced the scales. But another part of me felt something else. Doubt. Because I'd wanted this. For months, maybe years, I'd wanted Jennifer to suffer. And now she was. But I hadn't done it. So who had? I started digging. I went back through everything I knew about Jennifer. Her life before the accident. The people she knew. I looked at social media. Old photos. Comments on posts. And then I found something. A name I'd seen before but hadn't paid much attention to. Ethan Marsh. He'd been in the background of one of the photos from the lantern. The one Jennifer had posted 2 weeks before the accident. He was standing near her group, holding a beer. I looked him up. Ethan was 24. He worked as a delivery driver for a local courier service. No criminal record that I could find. No obvious connection to Jennifer. But something about his name felt familiar. I kept digging. And then I found it. A news article from 3 years ago. Local woman killed in DUI crash. The victim's name was Claire Marsh. She was 19 years old. A sophomore at State University. She'd been driving home from her part-time job when a drunk driver ran a stop sign and hit her car. She died at the scene. The drunk driver served 18 months. I read the article 3 times. Then I searched for more information about Claire. I found her obituary. It listed her surviving family members. Parents, Robert and Linda Marsh. Brother, Ethan Marsh. I felt something cold settle over me. Ethan had lost his sister the same way I'd lost mine. To a drunk driver. I kept searching. I found Ethan's Facebook page. Most of it was private, but there were a few public posts. One from 2 years ago, "Justice system is a joke. 18 months for a life. How is that fair?" One from 18 months ago, "Some people don't deserve second chances." And one from a month ago, "Karma's slow. But it's real." My hands were shaking as I took screenshots. I called Detective Park the next morning. "This is Riverside," I said when she answered. "I need to talk to you about the Jennifer Castellano case." "What about it?" "I think I know who did it." There was a pause. "Come down to the station," she said. I brought everything I'd found. The news article about Claire Marsh. Ethan's social media posts. The photo from the lantern showing Ethan in the background of Jennifer's group. Detective Park listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "So you think Ethan Marsh targeted Jennifer because she was convicted of a similar crime?" "Yes." "Based on what?" "Some vague social media posts and a photo where he happens to be in the same bar." "Based on the fact that he lost his sister the same way I lost mine. And he had access to Jennifer. He knew who she was. The Lantern is a popular bar, Mr. Riverside. Lots of people go there. It's more than that." Detective Park was quiet for a moment. "I'll look into it," she said finally. "But I need you to understand something. This doesn't clear you. You're still a person of interest. I didn't do this." "Maybe not. But until we have concrete evidence pointing elsewhere, you remain on our radar." They brought Ethan in for questioning 2 days later. I found out about it from Ray, who'd heard it from someone who knew someone in the police department. Apparently, Ethan denied everything at first. Said he didn't know Jennifer. Said he'd never heard of her. Said he wasn't anywhere near Clearwater Avenue the day she was hit. But when Detective Park showed him the photo from the lantern, he got nervous. "That doesn't prove anything," he said. "I go there sometimes. Lots of people do." "You were there the same night as Jennifer Castellano," Detective Park said. 2 weeks before she killed someone in a drunk driving accident. So it's quite a coincidence." Ethan insisted he had nothing to do with the hit and run. He said he was at work at the time. He provided his delivery route as an alibi. But when they checked his GPS records, they found something interesting. There was a 15-minute gap in his route. Right around the time Jennifer was hit. They got a warrant to search his car. And that's when they found the evidence. Paint transfer on the front bumper. Microscopic, but there. The forensic team compared it to samples from Jennifer's clothing. It was a match. Ethan was arrested on April 18. Charged with attempted murder and leaving the scene of an accident. He confessed 3 days later. I read about it in the paper. According to the article, Ethan had been watching Jennifer for months. Ever since he'd seen her at the lantern and recognized her from news coverage of Sarah's accident. He said he couldn't stop thinking about it. About how Jennifer had served barely any time. About how she was out living her life while Claire was dead. It wasn't fair, he told the police. She got away with it. Just like the guy who killed Claire got away with it. So he decided to do something about it. He followed Jennifer. Learned her routine. Waited for the right moment. And then, one afternoon when she was walking home from work, he accelerated his car and hit her. He didn't stop. He just drove away and went back to work. Jennifer survived. Barely. She spent 2 months in the hospital. Multiple surgeries. They had to reconstruct part of her pelvis. She had permanent nerve damage in her left leg. But she lived. The doctors said she was lucky. A few inches different and the impact would have killed her. I didn't know how to feel about any of it. Part of me felt vindicated. Ethan had done what I'd wanted to do but couldn't. He'd made Jennifer suffer. But another part of me felt sick. Because Ethan wasn't some hero. He wasn't delivering justice. He was just another person who couldn't let go of his anger. Just like me. I went to see Jennifer in May. She was in a rehabilitation facility by then. Learning to walk again with a cane. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up. The receptionist asked if I had an appointment. "No," I said. "But I think she'll see me." She called back to Jennifer's room. There was a long pause. Then she hung up and nodded. "Room 217. I walked down the hallway slowly. My hands were shaking. I knocked on the door. "Come in," Jennifer said. I opened the door. She was sitting in a wheelchair by the window, looking out at the parking lot. When she turned and saw me, her face went pale. "It's okay," I said quickly. "I'm not here to. I just wanted to talk." "About what?" I sat down in the chair across from her. She looked so different than she had in court. Thinner. Older. There were dark circles under her eyes. "I spent 2 years hating you," I said. Jennifer looked down at her hands. "I know. I followed you. I sent you messages. I made your life hell. I know. And then someone actually tried to kill you. And it wasn't me." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "The detective told me about Ethan. About his sister. Claire." "Yeah." We sat in silence for a moment. "I wanted you to suffer," I said. "I wanted you to feel what I felt. But when it actually happened, I don't know. I thought it would make me feel better. But it didn't." "Nothing makes it better," Jennifer said quietly. "I know that now. I'm not here to forgive you," I said. "I don't know if I ever can. I don't expect you to. But I'm done hating you." Jennifer looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "I think about Sarah every day. I know you don't believe me. But it's true. I see her face every time I close my eyes. I believe you. I'm so sorry, Daniel. For everything. For what I took from you. For the pain I caused. I know it doesn't change anything. But I am sorry. I nodded. We sat there for a few more minutes without speaking. Then I stood up. I should go, I said. Daniel, Jennifer said as I reached the door. I turned. Thank you for coming. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just left. I drove home in a daze. My phone rang on the way. It was Detective Park. Mr. Riverside, she said. I wanted to let you know that you've been cleared as a person of interest in the Castellano case. We have Ethan's confession and physical evidence. The case is closed as far as you're concerned. Thank you. I also wanted to say, I'm sorry for your loss. And I'm sorry we had to put you through all of this. It's fine. Is it? I didn't answer. Take care of yourself, Mr. Riverside, Detective Park said, and hung up. Ethan Marsh's trial began in September. I didn't attend. But I followed the news coverage. His lawyer tried to argue that it was a crime of passion. That Ethan had been driven by grief and rage over his sister's death. The prosecution argued that it was premeditated. That Ethan had stalked Jennifer for months. That he'd planned the attack. The jury sided with the prosecution. Ethan was convicted of attempted murder. Sentenced to 15 years. I read about the verdict online while sitting in my apartment alone. And I thought about how close I'd come to doing the same thing. How easily I could have been the one in that courtroom. The one going to prison for 15 years. I sold my construction business in October. I just didn't have the heart for it anymore. I moved to a smaller town about 2 hours away. A place where nobody knew me. Where I could start over. I got a job working for a local contractor. Just regular work. No management responsibilities. No stress. It was better. Not good. But better. I don't think about Jennifer much anymore. Sometimes I'll see something that reminds me of everything, a news story about a drunk driving accident, or someone at a bar who looks like her, and I'll feel that familiar anger start to rise. But then I remember Ethan. And I remember that revenge doesn't heal anything. It just spreads the wound. I visited Sarah's grave last week. It was the first time I'd been there in months. I brought flowers. Daisies. They were her favorite. I stood there for a long time, looking at her headstone. Sarah Elizabeth Riverside. 1998 to 2024. Beloved sister and friend. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you, I said out loud. I'm sorry for everything that happened after. I'm sorry I let the anger consume me. The wind rustled through the trees. I'm trying to move on now, I continued. I don't know if I'm doing it right. But I'm trying. I set the flowers down and stood there for a few more minutes. Then I walked back to my truck and drove home. Jennifer reached out to me last month. She sent a letter to my old address. My former neighbor forwarded it to me. The letter was short. Dear Daniel. I hope this letter finds you well. I wanted you to know that I'm doing better. Physical therapy is helping. I can walk without the cane now, though I still have pain some days. I've been thinking a lot about what you said when you visited me. About being done hating me. I don't know if you meant it or if you were just saying it to be kind, but it meant more to me than you know. I want you to know that I'm dedicating my life to making sure what happened to Sarah never happens to anyone else. I've started volunteering with an organization that advocates for stricter DUI laws. I speak at high schools about the consequences of drunk driving. I tell them about Sarah. About what I took from her. From you. I know it doesn't bring her back. Nothing will. But I need to do something. I need to try to make meaning out of this tragedy. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that Sarah's death changed me. Really changed me. Not just because of what happened to me after, but because I finally understand the weight of what I did. I think about her every day. And I think about you. I hope you find peace, Daniel. You deserve it. Jennifer. I read that letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and tried to forget about it. But I couldn't. I wrote her back 2 weeks later. Jennifer. Thank you for your letter. I'm glad you're doing better physically. I meant what I said. I'm done hating you. That doesn't mean I've forgiven you. I don't know if I ever will. But I've realized that carrying that hatred was destroying me. What you're doing now, the advocacy work, the speaking, I think Sarah would appreciate that. She always wanted to help people. She dedicated her life to it. I don't know if we'll ever speak again after this. I don't know if that would be healthy for either of us. But I want you to know that I don't wish you harm. I hope you can build a good life. A meaningful one. And I hope that in some small way, the work you're doing helps prevent other families from going through what we've been through. Take care of yourself. Daniel. I sent the letter and felt something lift. Not everything. The grief was still there. The loss. But some of the weight was gone. I think about Ethan sometimes. About how he spent years planning his revenge. Watching Jennifer. Waiting for the perfect moment. And when he finally got it, when he hit her with his car and drove away, I wonder if he felt satisfied. If he felt like justice had been served. Or if he just felt empty. Like I did. Because that's the thing about revenge. It promises closure. It promises satisfaction. But it never delivers. All it does is create more pain. More victims. More people carrying around anger they don't know how to process. Ethan is in prison now. 15 years. He destroyed his own life trying to destroy someone else's. And for what? Claire is still gone. Sarah is still gone. Revenge didn't bring either of them back. I'm trying to build a new life now. It's not easy. Some days are harder than others. I've started seeing a therapist. A woman named Dr. Brennan who specializes in grief and trauma. She's helping me work through everything. The anger. The guilt. The loss. You spent 2 years consumed by thoughts of revenge, she said during one of our sessions. That's a normal response to grief, especially when you feel like justice wasn't served. But now you have to ask yourself, what do you want your life to look like going forward? I don't know, I said. That's okay. You don't have to know right now. But you do have to decide whether you're going to keep living in the past or start building a future. I thought about that for a long time. And I realized she was right. Sarah was gone. Nothing would bring her back. But I was still here. And I had a choice. I could spend the rest of my life consumed by what happened. Or I could try to honor Sarah's memory by living a life she'd be proud of. I've started volunteering too. At a local grief support group. For people who've lost family members to drunk driving. I didn't think I'd be good at it. I didn't think I had anything to offer. But talking to other people who understand what I've been through, it helps. There's a woman in the group named Patricia. She lost her son 5 years ago. He was 17. Does it get easier? I asked her once. She thought about it for a moment. Not easier. Just different. You learn to carry it. You learn to live with the loss instead of fighting against it. That stuck with me. I went back to visit Sarah's grave yesterday. It's been 3 years since she died. 3 years since that Thursday night in October. I brought flowers again. Daisies. And I sat down on the grass next to her headstone. I'm doing better, I told her. Not great. But better. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink. I met someone, I said. Her name is Lauren. She's a teacher. We met at the grief support group. Her husband died 2 years ago. Cancer. I paused. I don't know if it'll go anywhere. But it's nice to have someone to talk to. Someone who understands loss. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees. I still miss you, I said. Every single day. I think about all the things you'll never get to do. All the ways your life was cut short. My voice cracked. But I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to build something good. Something you'd be proud of. I set the flowers down and stood up. I love you, Sarah. I always will. I walked back to my truck and drove home. I don't know if targeting the wrong person was the worst part of all this. In some ways, Ethan targeting Jennifer felt like the universe delivering the justice I'd wanted but couldn't carry out myself. But that's not really what happened. Because Jennifer, despite everything she did, despite the pain she caused, didn't deserve what Ethan did to her. Just like Sarah didn't deserve what Jennifer did to her. And just like Claire didn't deserve what that drunk driver did to her. It's a cycle. Pain creating more pain. Anger creating more anger. And the only way to break that cycle is to let go. Not to forget. Not to forgive, necessarily. But to stop letting the anger control you. To stop letting it define your life. I saw Jennifer one more time. It was last month. Completely by accident. I was at a coffee shop in my new town, not Morning Brew, somewhere different, and she walked in. She didn't see me at first. She was with someone. A woman about her age. They sat down at a table near the window. I watched Jennifer order a coffee. She was using a cane again. The limp was obvious. But she was smiling. Talking animatedly with her friend. She looked, okay. Not happy, exactly. But okay. I finished my coffee and stood up to leave. As I walked past her table, she looked up. Our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then Jennifer gave me a small nod. I nodded back. And I walked out. I think about that moment a lot. About the fact that we didn't speak. Didn't acknowledge everything that had happened between us. And then moved on. Maybe that's all we can do. Maybe that's enough. Ethan Marsh will be in prison for another 12 years. Jennifer Castellano will carry the physical and emotional scars of what happened for the rest of her life. And I'll carry the loss of Sarah for the rest of mine. None of it is fair. None of it is justice. But it's reality. And at some point, you have to decide whether you're going to let reality destroy you or whether you're going to find a way to live with it. I still have bad days. Days where I wake up and the first thing I think about is Sarah. Days where the anger comes back and I have to remind myself why I let it go. Days where I wonder if I made the right choice. If I should have done more. But most days now, I'm okay. I go to work. I see my therapist. I volunteer at the support group. I spend time with Lauren. We take it slow. No pressure. Just two people trying to figure out how to live with loss. And every once in a while, I'll have a good day. A day where I laugh at something stupid. Or enjoy a meal. Or feel the sun on my face and think, this is nice. Those days are still rare. But they're getting more frequent. And I think that's progress. Last week, I got a call from Detective Park. I hadn't heard from her in over a year. Mr. Riverside, she said. I wanted to let you know that the Marsh case is officially closed. Ethan pled guilty to all charges. No trial. Okay. I also wanted to thank you. The information you provided was crucial to solving the case. I just told you what I found. You did more than that. You could have kept quiet. Let us continue investigating you as a suspect. But you didn't. I didn't know what to say to that. Anyway, Detective Park continued. I hope you're doing well. I hope you found some peace. I'm working on it. That's all any of us can do. She hung up. I don't know what the moral of this story is. I don't know if there is one. All I know is that I spent 2 years seeking revenge against the person who killed my sister. I followed her. I harassed her. I made her life hell. And then someone else, someone with the same pain, the same anger, actually followed through. And when it happened, when Jennifer was lying in a hospital bed fighting for her life, I realized something. It didn't make me feel better. It didn't bring Sarah back. It didn't change anything. All it did was create more pain. More trauma. More brokenness. And I realized that I'd wasted 2 years of my life chasing something that was never going to give me what I needed. Closure. Peace. Justice. Those things don't come from revenge. They come from letting go. From choosing to build something instead of destroy something. From honoring the people we've lost by living lives they'd be proud of. Sarah would have been 29 this year. I think about that sometimes. About the person she would have become. The life she would have built. She would have been an incredible mother. An amazing nurse practitioner. A force for good in the world. All of that was taken from her. And nothing will ever make that right. But I can choose how I respond to that loss. I can choose to let it define me. To let the anger and pain consume me. Or I can choose to honor her memory by trying to be the kind of person she believed I could be. Kind. Strong. Forgiving. I don't always succeed. But I'm trying. And I think that's what matters. Was the outcome justified? What would you have done differently? If this story made you think, hit subscribe and leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me if you've ever struggled with anger or grief or the desire for revenge. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. These stories matter. And they reach far. Because the truth is, we're all carrying something. Some loss. Some pain. Some wound that won't quite heal. And how we choose to carry it, that defines who we become. I chose revenge for a long time. And it nearly destroyed me. Now I'm choosing something different. Healing. Growth. Forward motion. It's harder than revenge. But it's better. And I think Sarah would agree.